Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to Black Mental Health Matters. Today is World Maternal Mental Health Day, and we are celebrating it countrywide, and we are celebrating it globally, not countrywide, but also in Uganda here we are celebrating it. I have guests from around the world. I have Angela Kambuga-Sansimbi right here in Uganda with me. Then I have a sister, Olora Antoini in Germany. We are pleased to have you here on set today as we discuss mental health as regards to us women, especially during the time of conception, the time of giving birth, and all those. Honorable David, you're welcome to the show. And also, we are glad to be sponsored by Tunacheki TV, online TV. We are just so happy today, and we want to be exclusively discussing perinatal and postpartum depression. To a layman's understanding, if I may ask, what's the difference between perinatal and postpartum depression? I will start with you, sister. Sister, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yeah, someone should describe what is perinatal and postpartum depression. What's that? If someone told you, I'm going through postpartum depression, what should I understand? If someone told me I'm going through perinatal depression, what should someone understand? Angela, can we start with you? Oh, so sorry. I think my guests have a network connection, but sister, can you hear me? Sister, can you hear me? Hello? Sister, can you hear me? Angela, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Angela? Hello, Angela, can you hear me?
Hear you, Claire. I can hear you.
Can you describe for us what is postnatal depression?
What I can say, postnatal depression is depression that happens after the birth of a baby. It happens to the mother, but it's after the baby has been born, and it's normally a period of up to maybe 9 months or a year.
Okay, and what is perinatal depression? There is postnatal and there is perinatal depression. What is perinatal depression? What's the difference between the two?
Perinatal is when it has happened during pregnancy. Depression, which is clinically diagnosed, but it is during pregnancy. To a mother, to be specific.
So how that? Okay. So how do these types of depression affect a mother and a child? How do they affect the woman at large after giving birth and during? How does that one affect the woman at large?
Of course, how it will affect you as a woman, because now also related to my own experience. How it will affect you in a way that you will not be able to care for your child. If you are breastfeeding, you might not actually be able to breastfeed your child at all until you get attention, medical attention, and you also need support. And you might not be able to attend to your child, the maternal instincts, because it's like you're out of touch with reality at some point, especially if it's very severe. And of course, how it will affect the baby, if the mom is not given attention, it will affect the welfare of that child. And normally also the children get depressed if their mom is also not happy. So that's how I can put it simply.
Okay, thank you so much, Angela, for those insights. And when a woman is passing through such circumstances, what should they do to ensure that they do not get into that state of being unhealthy, or maybe not feeding that child so well, or neglecting that child, something like that? So this I will forward it to Dr. Kevin. Dr. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes. Am I still muted? Let me see. Can you hear me? Hello.
I can hear you, Dr. Kevin. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, you can. So restate the question. You were stating about depression. State it again, and I can hear the question. Claire just left.
It was actually Claire. It was Claire asking the question.
I know Claire asked the question. And I'll go along with the conversation around the depression that you mentioned earlier relative to the hormonal shifts and changes that takes place in the body. And there are several conditions that we have to be able to attend to within women and within the family. And also you mentioned how the depression can influence and impact the infant. And I think that's critical to know that, because there is a connection between the infant and the mother. And so when you have the hormonal shifts, it can cause behavioral changes, which can then lead to what you talked about was the idea of depression. Claire, are you back on? Okay. But you can hear me, Is that right? Okay. So when we talk about the hormonal shifts that take place, we must recognize that these influence behaviors, and those behaviors can influence a variety of things of how people respond to the environment. And so where I was going to go with that was that the hormonal shifts affect mood affects life, and there are several things that have to be taken into place. Was the pregnancy warranted or unwanted is one thing. They influence also the hormonal recovery. Was the child born with exceptionalities, right, or not? So all of these things play into the process of depression. There was so much excitement around being pregnant, and now one is no longer pregnant. It's almost like the letdown after the big wait for this big thing. And so all those things play into mood and affect. And how we know that it's postpartum depression and not just simply mood shifts, because it lasts for a period of time of several weeks, across weeks, and even months. And so we can identify it that way. And so we have to understand that it's important to have a network of people to be in tune with the mother as she goes through the shifts, as her body's beginning to adjust. And know this, that the body had to receive an alien organism inside of it and not eradicate it. And that's why many people don't become pregnant early on, is because it's seen, the zygote is seen as an alien object and is not allowed to mount or reside within the body. And so it gets destroyed. And so the body has to be able to allow this thing to grow in it. and as a result of it drawn on the body. And so that has also changed because it's drawing nutrients from the mother in order to sustain itself. And so all these things are happening within women. And so we have to learn how to treat women by giving them certain nutrients to fortify themselves, and also giving them certain things to support themselves. That is having a network of people around who are attuned with this idea of sadness that occurs or depression that occurs after giving birth.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. Talking about a mother having a network around her, people are helping her here and there, people are trying to keep her happy, people are trying to remind her that it's all okay with life, even if you have just given birth, or if you have a new child or something like that. People are trying like to put her back to life. What type of people should that person have? Should they trust just anyone, strangers, or maybe people who just come at home, or neighbors? What kind of people should those ones be? Should they be trustworthy people, or just anyone, as long as there is someone beside someone? Angela, can you please respond to that?
The kind of support system a woman needs, definitely number one is her husband. And then number two, in Africa, we have domestic workers. We also need their support. And then another kind of support we need the extended family, because they will always pinch in when you're having a rough time. They'll help with the children and support you to recuperate, because there comes a point when, frankly, you can't do nothing and you need all the support you can get. So depending on also the number of children you have, you need those people around you. But now in situations where people are far away from family, people have their networks. Say maybe it's the Black community, because I have a sister who lives in Swaziland, and then the Ugandans have their network. So even that person, even though they are not your blood sister or blood brother, they are your support system. They are the kind of people who will come in and support you when when everything has gone topsy-turvy. And obviously the medical personnel needs to come in, because in such situations when you're helpless, you'll need medical attention and get the relevant support that you need, and psychosocial support as well, talk therapy, because you'll need to talk some issues through when you are ready, because there are certain points, depending on how severe the situation is, you will definitely not be ready to talk. But at that point, when you're ready to talk, you will need that support system as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Angela. Sister, do you have something to add on that, what Angela has said?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, definitely. This is very important, like to have to identify what stressors are there during the pregnancy, and also to see what is going on in the relationships which are there with the woman, because it also affects how she is, her well-being. So that point is very important, that it's very important, first of all, to recognize and to be able to say that she is not feeling well. Because often we have what is like a perfect mother syndrome, A mother is supposed to be give birth with a lot of power and energy and celebrate the newborn child. And a lot of women actually suffer in silence and are afraid to say that they are not feeling well, that they are feeling numb, that they cannot celebrate this new life. And it is important to have this kind of support, that is first of all acknowledged. Yeah, that we can take away the stigma, and that women can come out and know it is understandable, that the way they are feeling is understandable. They don't have to pretend to be in perfect health.
Dr. Kevin, do you have something to add on what sister had just said?
Yes, I would spot on it relative to being aware of the pre-existing conditions, also trying to understand the power of a supportive network, and to understand that the body is having to shift and change, which impacts the mood because the mood is tied to hormones, right? And so all of these things are imperative. Not only is the father important to be a part of that, I would say that even within men, there are hormonal shifts that take place after a childbirth. It happens with most mammals, where the male that has been a part of a female that has given birth has some shifts and changes even in his mood. And so we need to recognize that everyone is having to make adjustments, and it's sometimes difficult to be there for someone when you don't know what to be there, how to be there for them. And we talk about also, I know for me, when my first child was born, I didn't know what to do to help with the process of the pain that was being encountered. So that feeling of helplessness is very estranging too for men. So it's important to know that that you must always have a network, because they help also to readjust and regulate the hormones. Know that breastfeeding is a part of the process as well, right? The luteinizing hormone that's there. So all these things are happening. So if the child can or cannot latch on it, there were these big hopes and ideas that the child would, I would have this baby. I'd be excited, as was stated earlier. This child would feed from my breast, and this is going to be just a loving bonding experience. And the child can't latch on properly, or there's not enough produced to sustain the child. All those things begin to influence mood and affect, because now the hopes and dreams and aspirations have to be adjusted, right? And so these things, if a child is born prematurely, and that alters the process of mood and affect. So just things to think about that would influence mood and affect in relationships.
Talking about the men involvement in all this, in helping women get over with the depression during and after birth. Recently, there is a couple, I had this couple, they are my friends. And then this woman is pregnant, and she told the guy, you know what, when I give birth, we have to take turns in holding the baby. The baby's not going to cry in my arms when you're there sleeping. And the guy was like, I have a plan for you. I have a plan. When the moment you give birth like this, I have to implement that plan. And it was like kind of a quarrel at first. Then later, it became like a joke. But in my mind, I was like, but I looked at the guy, definitely, he had something he was working on. So in the circumstance that a woman has given birth and this man is not supporting her, yes, even if there is a network, will she get all the skills she needs, or it will remain hanging like it is? Dr. Kevin, you can go first.
So one of the things I would add to it is that we have to be clear when we start writing scripts for one another. So we call this idea of writing scripts. And so the script is that we'll have this baby, woman writes this, and he will do A, B, and C. Remember, he's also written scripts. The baby will be born, and she'd feel so lovingly like a mother, and so she wouldn't want me to be around. Okay, so I won't have any space. Now I have to share the space with my wife, right? So all these things are happening, but no one talks about the scripts. So it's important, because then when somebody begins to act off script, then it's like the whole production, So it's important to know that there has to be effective communication to determine how there will be division of labor with a child. What happens in the context of a child crying? Who does this at night? Who does it during the daytime, right? These things are important to discuss on the front end, and things will evolve as the child comes into fruition, because even though you can discuss them, each child is different, like each person is different. And so you can have child one and things work this way. You have child two, and it's a different conversation altogether. But there has to be some idea of shared responsibility. Now, if you don't have shared responsibility, there then becomes another level of sadness and depression. That is that you don't have a spouse. But I mean, all those things come into play. So it's important to consider cognitive behavioral therapy. How do you think things through? Interpersonal therapy, right? How do you begin to deal with what you thought about was going to happen as a mother? A medication as well, if need be, that's safe to alter it, or some herbs that facilitate the mood and affect. Right, these things are important to consider. Food, diet, things that one can consume that alters their affect as well. But also, the key thing is going to always be having people around who are in tune with the mother that has given birth. I don't care what organism it is. I mean, most mammals, there's some attention that is given to them among most of the mammals. They attend to the mother. I even just recently here in the Gambia, I saw these sheep that were 1 day old, and the sheep and the mother, she had two, were just sitting in total exhaustion. And if I had to identify it, it was like straight up depression for both the sheep and the mother. I mean, they were sitting there like in a daze, all of them. And because of this was a traumatic experience for all of them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. Sister, I also want you to answer what Kevin has just talked about. I was telling him about this shared responsibility between a man and a woman once a child is born or once the woman conceives. What kind of support should a man give to the woman in order to let them have a good pregnancy season as well as the post-pregnancy season? What should they do in order to keep them afloat?
Yes. I always like to start with communication. That is that the couples learn to talk to each other, learn to communicate, learn to share what is happening within them. This is a beginning and very important to build the trust with each other. Communicating, honest communication and trust, and the commitment to share the responsibility. I think also handling each other with compassion, knowing that the birth of the child from conception to delivery has been a very major change. And for us as human beings, change is actually often taken as a kind of trauma sometimes. Yeah, it's always change is always a major stress factor. So from this whole period, from of 9 months, there have been major changes going on, and both partners can deal with each other with compassion. The man can be more supportive. The education is important, knowing what exactly is happening with my wife during the pregnancy, knowing that a whole lot of hormones, a whole lot of changes have taken place, which she has to deal with. So, like often in some situations, there is a separation, that the men are totally disconnected from the pregnancy, from what is going on with the woman. Yeah. So this disconnection is very destructive to the relationship and destructive to the parenthood of both parents. Very important that there is a shared responsibility, that there is trust, there is a commitment, and that both learn to grow together and educate themselves into this role if it is the first child.
Okay.
I want to
Angela, do you have some? Okay, yeah.
I want to add to that just
Yes.
for a second. I know Angela has something she wants to say. I just want to add to the statement about shared responsibility. And I think it is so important to know that typically men and women think about this process very differently. And therefore, if you don't communicate, you can miss one another. A classic example that I'll give is when our first child was being born. I was working to make sure that my job was straight. I had to go work through get some paperwork cleared so that I could get a paycheck to come to the house. And she wanted to go to purchase some baby items from the store. And she felt that I was neglecting her by leaving the house because I wasn't going to get the baby items. And I'm thinking that she's been irresponsible because we got to get the money coming to the house so that we can take care of the baby items. My point is that if there's not effective communication, then people may miss one another around, again, their responsibilities or their thoughts about what they are responsible for. And again, the scripts can throw you off. So it's important to share scripts. Here's what I can realize. I would say this is what I thought would happen. And this is what is not happening. How can we talk about this? Because in reality, we do see the process of child rearing, childbirth very differently. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kevin. Angela, do you have something to add on as regards to shared responsibility? Yes, Angela, do you have something to add on? Angela, please unmute and say something.
My own experience, what I can say is that my husband was very supportive, especially for the first 3 babies. He has been a very hands-on daddy. But when it came to our 4th baby, like Dr. Kevin said, with each baby, you know, everything seems to change. The 4th baby, my baby cried a lot. And I guess he was just tired. So I had to prep myself to care for this little one from midnight, because the crying would start at midnight and end at 3 a.m. I would have to prep myself because I would always check her nappies, you know, trying to make sure she's comfortable. But there was no problem, but she kept crying. And he was not helping me at that point. Actually, it's at that point when my emotions and the hormones, everything just went out of hand. Because when my baby made 9 months, I actually had a breakdown. Those people who have read my book, definitely you'll get to see it. Claire, I'm sure you'll get your copy this week. So those who haven't been able to get it can get it on Amazon. But what I was explaining is that he was supportive at the start, but then later on, it wasn't there. And then for the last baby who we have, what helped me is that the children were older, so the children were more supportive. But what Dr. Kevin has said is so true. When you are a couple, you need to communicate and you need to make your needs also clear so that you're on the same page and you support each other, because this is a walk you have to have. I mean, you walk together, because even the Bible says, can 2 walk together unless they agree? So this type of tension, yes, you are happy, you have babies, you are very excited, but the truth is it stresses the family. With each baby, each new baby, you know, everything changes and it gets stressful, and yet you are excited. And sometimes, yes, it can affect your mental health.
So if I may ask you, you said on your 4th born, your husband stopped giving you what he used to give you before in terms of care and support.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and you
Caring
said
for the baby, you know, I was used to him there 24/7. And when I say 24/7, it's not necessarily 24/7, because he definitely works. But he's one of those few men who are really hands-on, because this is a guy who would change nappies. He would even do feeding where necessary, although most of the time was breastfeeding. But for this particular one, my baby was a cry baby, the 4th baby. So the truth is, she was very clingy. That's what happened. He wasn't supportive at that time.
So if I may interject, you said when this baby was 9 months, that's when you got a breakdown. Was the breakdown due to your husband not giving you the support he used to give you, or it was something else that came in between? What really happened?
I guess it, you know, when you get a breakdown, it's a buildup of many things. It's not like it's just one incident in isolation, because when I relate to what I went through, there are so many things that I experienced in the past, even within my marriage, which I was keeping quiet about. And then there were things also when I was growing up as a child, which I was keeping quiet about. And people who do a lot of psychology, we are those kinds of people. I'm that kind of person. At that time, I felt I was being strong, not to show my emotions. And you keep carrying on. You think you can handle it. You don't seek the help that you need to seek, or even talk about issues. You think, no, I can deal with this. I can handle this, until you get to a place where your body can't take it anymore. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angela. Honorable David, we are happy to have you here. Do you have something to comment as regards to the male support when it comes to childbirth and the conception? Do you have something to add on?
Yeah, thank you very much. And before I come to what to add on to the support in terms of what we do for our mothers in this particular situation, I think we have to look at what perinatal period is, of which my other speakers have spoken on that timing, which is 20th week, 28th week, right down to the first 1 month, and also moving forward. So we are not just restricting our scope, but it's a period between this time when a woman conceives after delivery. But there is a miscommunication or a should I say, we are losing the target at times when we are talking about some of these issues, because most of the cases that we are seeing, some of them actually have their babies, but there are some other issues that bring about some of these perinatal mood disorders or postpartum mood disorders, of which we don't actually talk about. And I think in some of us, our engagement with our community members at our various catchment areas as mental health professionals, we want to actually let the community know. And at a big platform like this, we have to let them know that this is actually some of the things that we look out for. One, probably a pregnant woman could lose her husband during her pregnancy or immediately after delivery. The husband dies. And some of these things are issues of concern. When they come to the ANC clinics, the postnatal clinics, do we find out whether their spouse, that is their husbands, whether they are alive or they are not alive? If they are alive, are they supportive, as my other co-speaker mentioned? Yes, so we have to find out some of these very information too. Some of the women that get miscarriage along the line, how do we care for them? Somebody I listened to in Ghana here, a very respectable woman teaching in one of the highest institutions, had she just delivered and lost the baby, and she was made to resume work just 1 week. So you can see that our institutions, the psychological trauma and stuff, don't actually pay attention to women that even lose their babies. And this is also a critical point that we must look at. Those who have abortions and those who also lose their children, these are the things that bring about some of these mood swings, mood disorders during pregnancy, during delivery or after delivery. And we must look out for some of them. So charting a path and also communicating to understanding that some of these issues actually need the mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health nurses, mental health officers, social workers, and the likes. We must change our communication. Community support is very needed. That is why we must let the community know, the partners, the couples, whenever your wife conceives, you should be able to let this particular man or the close relations know that these are some of the things that some of the women, 1 out of every 5 is likely to have a mood disorder during pregnancy, after delivery. So who knows that it could be your wife or somebody's wife or your mother or somebody's mother. So everybody is actually going to be involved in this particular enterprise of our discourse. So therefore, there is the need that when we are going to engage our mothers at antenatal, at the postnatal, we should let them know the specific signs and symptoms that they must look out for. In fact, I was engaging someone last practically The husband was like, he doesn't understand why the woman should think that the child is an evil child. The child is probably not a child she has given birth to. So these are some of the thoughts that some of these women who have kids think about, that this child even is a burden, I must do away. Some of them even think they go dump the kid in a pit. Some think killing the kid or even killing themselves. And these are some of the things that we must look out for. These are the clears and symptoms that some of these women go through. Notwithstanding some of these things, baby, mother, father, everybody is engaged in this enterprise. Looking into a broader scope, we the fathers must also be looked out for. And in that way, we are going to chart this particular part. Black Mental Health Matters, this very day, we are talking about investing into maternal mental health issues. The very fundamental investment we can make is to sacrifice for our partners. Sacrificing for your partners means that you must understand the situation your partner is into. If you don't understand the situation, probably why your wife have mood swings, probably why your wife thinks that the child is an evil child, why your wife thinks that the gender she was expecting is not the gender she had, therefore the child is not a child. These are the things we must let our community know. So when we begin to chart our conversation in this way, we are going to make more mothers aware. In fact, I also engaged a colleague who was even a nurse, and she told me that, in fact, when she gave birth, along the line, she thought probably the entire community was against her. She was having this kind of suicidal thoughts. She was thinking about killing the baby. She was thinking about the whole world is after her, and she didn't know until I posted some of my, should I say, content on my platform. Then she said, no, these are the things she was suffering from, but she didn't know. So you can see that even in our scope of work, health professionals who are not very critical about their mental health could be suffering from maternal mental health issues, but they wouldn't know. So in our conversation like this, and a special day like this, the very basic investment we can all make, I know we have notable speakers who have engaged the community on big platforms where they are here, is to ensure that we let our mothers know that you may suffer from some of these illnesses. It could be depression and the likes, but today our focus is on depression, of which they must look out for these very signs and symptoms. So when you are going through this situation, come to us and let's see how best we can engage with you and your family. Fathers, that is why there is the need that they join them to the ANs, they join them to the postnatal clinics, so that we let them know that A, B, C, D is likely to happen. Yes, I know Doc has mentioned the various causes of some of these mood disorders, of which the hormonal sharp changes, the estrogen.
That was Honorable David. I think we lost him because of network. But here there is a comment. Someone commented on this comment, like captured my attention. Someone apparently said that this is Matthew. Matthew said that people don't have time for mental problems. They are dealing with real world issues. So ideally, like he's saying, that mental health problems is so minimal to be tackled than maybe going in for politics, going in for these things. What do people say about that? And this is a man, maybe he has a girlfriend or a wife or something. What do you think about such a statement? I'm starting with you, sister.
Yeah. Yes, I hear often this type of statements. I always try to explain it that just as we take care of our body, we do need to take care of our mental state. And just as the body can be susceptible and weak and vulnerable and need special care or be in deficit, the same can happen with our mental well-being. And it is, I think, also a part of the stigmatization to feel that that mental illness is a waste of time. Sometimes I hear it with some of my clients that the father says, oh, African women, we don't have depression, or such things are being said that this person is creating the problem herself. You know, doesn't have any real, they are tangible problems, and this is not tangible. I think we need to continue with the education with this. For a woman who is experiencing maternal depression, this is a very it's a very destructive perspective, because it is not one which validates her feelings, and it does not support. So usually the first stage there is to understand the education that mental illness is just as real as physical illness. Yeah, that when things are no longer in balance, that when there are too many stressors, that the human being can be in a state of ill health. And also maybe to introduce the concept of self-care, of caring, that also it is the emotional well-being must be worked hard to maintain. It deserves just as much acknowledgement and recognition and importance as the physical body. And in fact, they are all connected. The emotions, the body, the state of the mind are actually all connected. So if left untreated, this mental illness, which he has thought is insignificant, produces actually real physical illnesses tend to manifest then.
Thank you so much, sister. Angela, what do you say about that comment of people don't have time for mental health problems? They are busy dealing with world problems. What's that? Can you comment on that, Angela?
Yes.
Yes, someone here.
I should say.
Yeah, someone here apparently commented that people do
Claire,
not
what
have
were
time.
you saying?
Yeah, one of our viewers on Facebook, someone named Stephen Matthew, say that people do not have time for mental problems. They are busy dealing with world problems. What do you say about that comment?
I think what I can say about that kind of comment, it's all about people's mindsets. Because many people think that mental health is taboo. You know, it is something that doesn't happen to everybody. And yet all of us have mental health. And then also why people think it's not important, it's because of the shame and stigma and discrimination attached to it. People don't want to go public about it. They would rather deal with things behind closed doors. And because people in the society will ostracize them. And it's also because people deny the far-reaching effects of mental health, especially when it goes bad. Because if things are bad mentally, you won't be able to work, able to care for your family, even the men, they will not be able to put stable goes mental health, but issue why mental health is
Okay, thank you so much, Angela. Let us first give a vote of thanks to the Cheki TV YouTube channel, which is streaming our event live. Thank you so much. We are getting so many people viewing this show, and so many comments are coming in. Actually, someone from West Africa here commented. She says that food is a major problem. That food makes these people get drained, physical feeding. Sometimes when a woman has given birth, when they are expectant, they always want to eat food. They always have, I don't know, they have this a lot of appetite. They want to eat this, eat that, eat the other. So when that food is not provided as they need it, this person says they get depressed. Dr. Kevin, what do you say about this?
So nutritional health is really important as it relates to childbirth. And so there must be a replenishment of nourishment. And I think that too often we don't recognize the relationship between the foods that we eat and how we feel. We know that individuals that receive up to 5 servings of fruit or vegetables a day have a greater positive effect, positive outlook on life. Also, altruism, the idea of giving of oneself to someone else often can contribute to mood and affect and health. And so this seems to be counterintuitive in the context of child rearing where depression takes place. I will back up to the initial statement, which was about real world issues, that all things that we encounter have a mental and or psychological component to it. Too often in our community, we talked about the stigma of mental health, is that we relegate mental health or illness or wellness to being some aberrant behavior. That is where we see someone talking to themselves or people are creating conditions of hallucination and so on. But we must recognize that everything that we encounter is a psychological process. Who we vote for, how we talk about the vote, what we eat, how we relate to someone. All those are psychological processes that we have to encounter. How are we raised? What traumas did we encounter while we were being raised? These influence how we relate to other people. So everything that we do, that we encounter, is a mental health issue. And we don't think about it as such because we think that the primary issue is of course, let's say money. Well, my grandmother said, a fool and his money will soon depart. The idea is that if your mind is not right, you can have the resources in front of you and not know how to use them. I'll say it this way. One was talking about the idea of hunger in Africa. The reality is that as I'm moving through Gambia, I think about the amount of mangoes that are going to have to be thrown away, the amount of watermelons that have to be thrown away, eggplant. It is not the issue of food shortage. It's the issue of being able to conceptualize how to utilize the things that is at their purview. But when one is caught in a system of survival, constant trauma, constant turmoil, they cannot even think of simple tasks, which is a mental process, right? Simple things to do. I've been so tired coming in from home, from work, and just sit and look. I can't figure out how to get my clothes off to get a shower. It was a mental fatigue that takes place. So we have to recognize that surviving in the context of racism and oppression, abject poverty is a part of that entire process, which influences our real world activities, which makes us have resources at our purview and not know how to use them. Why is it that the world can get wealthy off of the resources from the continent, and the continent continues to say that it is perpetually poor? Because that is not being able to conceptualize how to deal with this issue, because we're always in chaos and turmoil. We have governments always fighting and so forth. So the issue is that we have to stop and begin to assess that every moment is a mental health moment, and how to get my mind in alignment with my purpose. We hear it among the Yoruba. Sister Ayo is here about Ori, that your head has to be in alignment with your destiny. It's the same concept. It's about mental alignment that exists in every African society. But the point is that we think that it is a white issue. The issue is mental wellness and mental well-being is the one of spirit and spirituality. And that when one's spirit is vexed, when one is out of order, then at that point, everything in their lives becomes out of order. And so we have to be clear that nutrition becomes one of those things where we take in nutrients that can recalibrate our mood and affect. Everybody knows that at some level, chocolate is an aphrodisiac. So it makes one feel lovingly, or the idea of shrimp, lovingly. Well, if that can affect your mood to feel lovingly, Are there foods that can make you feel more depressed? Eating heavily fried foods can make you feel sad and depressed because of the HDLs that are built up, right? The plaque that's built up. We feel sluggish. We have to check the things that we are consuming. So consuming foods that are going to make our bodies feel better. That's critical to the process of health. And so our foods are tied to mood, affect, even what we choose to eat. We choose to eat certain things when we feel a certain way, and then say that it's not a mental health issue. Yes, it is. We choose fats when we feel stressed. We choose sweets when certain things are happening when we often are feeling low energy. Affect and food are tied together, but things are not always healthy. We must always consume those things that are healthy, and that's a part of postpartum depression, is to be able to refortify the body with what it needs. Both the man and the woman needs to fortify their bodies. Thank you.
Sister, do you have something to add on?
I can only totally agree with that. I agree with that mental health is definitely also a spiritual matter. It's definitely also a spiritual matter, and has to do with how we are in balance, has to do with how we are processing our past experiences, yeah, and how we are applying it for our future. When we welcome the children into the world, we're welcoming spirits.
Okay, thank you so much, sister. Again, we thank to Nachek TV Kenya. Thank you for streaming our event live. Then, going back a little bit, Honorable David said something earlier on. He talked about the midwives in hospitals. These midwives who help women deliver. Sometimes I have personally seen a midwife say certain horrible words to a pregnant woman who's almost delivering. How does that affect this woman during the time of delivery and after? Does this affect the woman into disliking the baby? How does it affect the woman?
Yes.
I'll start with you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We are exposed in terms of communication and also our mental well-being from persons that we expect to receive best and better services from. So when you even get to any facility for healthcare, the kind of therapy you receive starts right from the very point you get or you enter the facility to the very point you receive your treatment and come out. So whatever conversation that you have with all the professionals is going to either promote and even help you get better or even worsen your situation. So I have had several encounters with professionals who speak ill words against their clients. And at the end of the day, the client will try to restrict some information that would have been beneficial to the provision of services. So I will say, should a midwife or a health professional who is providing services to these particular mothers who are in their facility try to use words that are not encouraging, demeaning words that do not promote the well-being, that do not ensure that the dignity of these clients are respected, it affects their mental well-being, and most of them become mute, they refuse to communicate, and whatever they're going through, they suffer the pain within. So I will say that it will be prudent as professionals that we try to put ourselves in the situation of our client. I have worked in the ward and I'm still working in collaboration with persons who work in the ward. And I get to know that most of the times it is good we engage our client in a very humble and polite manner, communication that will heal them. So psychologically, I will entreat all health professionals right from antenatal clinics through the 9-month session, the point of delivery, after delivery, that we should mind the speech we give to our mothers. If not, we are going to even aggravate some of the situations, because even in as much as they come to the facility, most of them have a lot of problems they are even going through. The hormonal imbalances, house problems, children are disturbing. It could be financial abuse, spousal abuse, all these things. They cannot even tell you all these problems if you don't give them the platform. So I would say that this is the time as a midwife, this is the time as a community organizer, this is the time as a mental health professional who is involved in provision of services to this mother to calm down, communicate to this woman as if she's in the home, as if she is with the husband who have peace with her, and let her relax. Madam, we want to listen to you. What are the problems? What is the situation? How can you tell us what you're going through? We want to offer you that best help, that best service that you can ever expect from us. Let us communicate as we are clients and customers who are engaged in the provision of the best services you can ever have elsewhere. And you see our mothers having this kind of peace of mind, coming to communicate, coming to access healthcare at their own pace with freedom and telling you the problems they're going through. So I would entreat that let us all engage our clients as is us, because at the end of the day, it is because of them we are in the facility, and it is because of us that they also come to the facility to access healthcare. And mental health starts right from the very point you set your eyes on this particular client, through the OPD to all the services, the lab and whatever. Let's engage them. They are already having issues. That is why Doc mentioned the progesterone, the estrogen, a lot of things, chemical imbalances are happening in the body. The woman is not alone. She's carrying another person with her. So you can even see that at times some of them, they also have these problems. I always mention that some women get pregnant and they begin to know that they have some diseases such as hepatitis B, such as HIV/AIDS. Information from the public.
We seem to have lost David, but you were saying something which is very important.
In the best care and hands for us to help them. Yeah, so I think this is all that I want us to look at.
Okay, thank you so much, David, for that output. It's very important. So should I assume, this one I'm asking to Dr. Kevin, should I assume that these mental health, these health professionals who are not mental health activists, should I assume that they also need education about mental health so that they can learn better on how to treat these mothers while they are attending their antenatal or they are in for their delivery? Should we assume they like that kind of aspect in their training, which is actually very critical?
Indeed, it should be a part of the training, is a part of much of our training. We talk about the various hormones and physiological psychology, talk about progesterone that was mentioned, testosterone that shifts. All these things are part of the process that we have to understand that influences, of course, mood and affect. But there could be more done. I won't say but, I'll say and. There can be more done to be aware of the influences of these on child rearing, child birth, and also family life. And I will submit that also, this is often overlooked, that men also have a shift in affect. And I keep saying this so often because I think that we really need to hear that everybody's impacted by this. And I don't know exactly what it feels like to a woman to have had a child, but I can say that with my first child, I can say that I had morning sickness as things were happening. I would feel this strange feeling in my stomach, and that's how I knew that this was really happening. So I will submit to you that there are hormonal shifts that take place in everyone, and that we need to attend to ourselves, and that it is a mental health issue. And I think Ayodeji keeps reminding us about the idea of poverty, of hunger, that is tied to race. And I think that also it influences how we see academia. So if academia is amazing, so I cannot stop this fast enough. My does not teach us about these things, then we miss out on it. That is not only do we learn about childbirth, child rearing, child processes, and developmental psychology, but also understand the physiology of giving birth and how that everybody is impacted. But then there's another level of this that we will miss in European academic settings, that it is a total body phenomena that is, again, tied to spirit and our essence of being. And that's how we even treat, if you look at how our children are born within our African cosmological families. It's a child, there's an elder being reborn. For example, Ayodeji is here. The idea of Ayodele among the Yoruba means joy has returned, or the idea of Babatunde, the idea that father returns. So we see in our cosmological systems that beingness is spirit, and spirit is reborn. That is, if that is the case, we must attend spirit and or psychology. We must attend to food issues. You're right, the idea of starvation. And it occurs globally to African peoples, not just simply on the continent, that in the Americas, we have food deserts where we don't have nutritional substances for our people. But that is not by choice. That is by a decision to annihilate Black family. We must learn how to connect with one another to fortify ourselves. So yes, what foods can we consume that impacts us? What does cognitive therapy look like for us? How do we rethink the situation of giving childbirth? What does interpersonal counseling and psychotherapy look like? What is a spiritual phenomenon? What does drumming, music, dance, spoken word do for us, for our spirit, our souls, that helps us to be able to feel better? How can we teach a woman to journal her feelings, affects, and then maybe put that into a spoken word element and share that? That's a healing modality. That is psychological. That is psychological at its essence. How does one respond to music? And music, how does it shift and adjust the vibratory frequencies within their bodies that allows their bodies to be able to heal and to mend? So we must be clear that there is a multimodal process of healing that takes place. What does it mean to finally walk to the ocean and feel Yemaya, to feel the salt water, or walk to the river? All these things are things that we have to be able to help people to understand, that these put you into alignment to help your spirit feel better. Everybody can't do it immediately, but the point is that we must be aware of their impact. How can we look at aromatherapy? What does it mean to have churai in Senegal and in the Gambia, or incense that can affect mood and affect, right? So these things are very critical to me, and we can't be Western, but we have to understand that if we are African, we can help people to feel better immediately, because they learned from us how to deal with postpartum depression, and that's grist for another meal. I'm not going to even go into that today, but we can go into that in a deeper discussion. But they've learned how to deal with affect and mood from us the other way around.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I'm going to ask Angela. Angela, as regards to the way how midwives treat women who are going to deliver in hospitals, and also during antenatal. Some of them have these rude ways of talking to these women, because maybe this one has labor pains and she's crying, and this woman is like, "Hey, shut up! We don't have to do this." What do you say about that? Do you think these people lack training as regards to mental health, as regards on how they should be handling these women mentally, so that they can keep upright even when they are going to give birth, even after birth, all those things? Do you think those people lack that kind of aspect in their training? Angela, are you with us? Sister, you can go ahead. You can answer that as Angela comes in.
Yes, of having this honor of accompanying a child into the world. It's a very special process. And I think that it's not just a matter, if we look at it from one side, it's just a question of mind and body from the Eurocentric perspective. But we have to look at it
hello,
from our
I hope
African
you can hear
part.
me.
It is spirit.
What I can say about the attitude of
Sister, continue, please.
Yes, it is body, mind, and spirit. We are welcoming into the world a spirit, and with a person who is there accompanying this
Sister,
process.
weren't you speaking? You're still talking.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed. Please proceed. Go ahead.
Okay, so accompanying the spirit needs different qualities and skills. Definitely emotional support, physical support, mental support, compassion are very important skills that the woman feels. In our language we say mothering the mother. So the mother is giving birth, and the nurse or the worker, the midwife, is actually a mother to this woman giving birth, by her side, giving her the trust, the support to deliver the child. And this is, I think, a very important thing that maybe in the training we have to also move away from some of these Eurocentric concepts, which just think it is a mechanical thing. But it is a very human thing, and it has effects on the behavior of the child for years to come. But this is not understood sometimes, how important this role of accompanying the mother as she delivers. When that woman is mothered by the midwife, when she is mothered and she is supported, this affects the baby. And in fact, this type of what David described is very sad, because this is how we even traumatize the children before they are born or while they are born, and traumatize the mother as well. So in fact, such behavior is an act of violence. So we should put a lot of attention into the training and who is doing this job of accompanying the process.
Thank you so much, sister. Angela, do you have something to add on? Angela, do you have something to add on what sister said? Please unmute and say something. Anyway, it seems Angela's network is unstable, so let's move forward. So if
No, I can say something. How is it now?
Okay, yeah. Okay, you say something.
Okay, what I was saying, just to add on to what she was saying, is because in Uganda, our situation where health workers are concerned, especially for women who don't have money, our health workers want to be bribed in order to treat you well. So just to add on to what sister has said, is to create awareness during the training that love and compassion is part of the package, and they have to combine it with professionalism and not have to be bribed to do their work, but just to give it their best so that mothers are well taken care of. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Angela. Now, as regards to the training, what besides, because should this one be a course, like they should put it as a course for the medics, so that if you're doing medicine, bachelor's of medicine, you should have this as a course unit, so that you know after school, I'm supposed to be doing this to patients. No matter what field you're working in, you might be a surgeon, you might be you might be working in your lab attendant. You're doing all those things in the hospital. So should they be taught these things so they are able to know how am I supposed to receive this woman when she comes in? How am I supposed to diagnose her? How am I supposed to talk to her? How am I supposed to take her through all these steps? Do you think that is relevant? I'll start with you, Dr. Kevin, since you've come back.
Oh, I'm here. I think that it is relevant for us to include this, and again, to a training process. It should be a part of the
they should, because those are soft skills. Actually, they are soft skills which should be incorporated in the training, so that they are able to treat people in a humane way with dignity. But also the aspect of mental health should come through, because mental health has to be spread out in every area of our healthcare systems as well.
Dr. Kevin, you can.
Exactly. That's it. That's it. These are essential skills, soft skills that we should be aware of and learn within our training. I know that I read one comment that said that the earth provides all that we need, and that is so true. And that we come here having some level of knowing how to comfort and console one another. And somehow we get so caught into our selfish desires that we forget how to do that. Just as it is a natural process by which we can procreate, it's natural for us to also know how to nurture and to care for one another. And this idea of postpartum and perinatal depression is important to discuss, to be a part of training, because it allows us to be able to know how to be more human with one another. And the Zulu call this Ubuntu, the idea of how humanity is linked in all things. So, yes.
David, what do you have to say about that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is the most important aspect of our engagement, also to our viewers. On behalf of Global Pan-Africanism Network and Black Mental Health Matters, I have listened to my avid specialists and presenters, speakers as well, and the co-host. And in fact, fantastic. This is very wonderful. But besides, when some of us got to know that maternal mental health issues in our country, especially Ghana, was not as to what we expected, there was a project we launched, and our project was targeted on the mental health professionals who are found in the peripherals of the country. That is the mental health nurses and mental health officers who are involved in the day-to-day activities of the mental health needs of our population at large. So we try to build their capacities in these very areas of maternal mental health issues, of which we have to make them aware that these are some of the things that you should expect at your clinic sessions when you are going for your ANC. So we try to train them in these areas, and we have finished the first cohort and we are looking at the second one upcoming. So we want to first of all train our colleagues who are mental health practitioners, especially the nurses and the mental health officers who are working in some peripherals, that is hard to reach areas where we don't have the specialist services. So they will be much informed about maternal mental health issues and be able to even identify mothers who have some of these challenges, even at the ANC and at the postnatal clinics, vis-a-vis their nurses who engage them. So we are also not leaving out community health nurses and the midwives. And our second focus is to also get persons who are involved in childcare, that is the community health nurses and the midwives. They are always involved in the day-to-day activities of our pregnant mothers. We also training them on this very particular subject matter, that is maternal mental health issues, of which we are discussing the depression, which is associated with pregnancy and childbirth. So I can say that we are going far, and My project we launched in 2019. As we speak, we have 273 members across the country, and we are even going beyond. We have emotional intelligence coach, we have some psychologists with us, we have psychiatric or mental illnesses and mental health officers, we have psychiatric clinical officers or CPOs, and all these persons are involved in the day-to-day activities of the mental health needs of our population at large. So all that we are saying is that for us to be able to reach out to our professionals who provide mental health services, and also those who are also associated with persons such as our mothers or pregnant mothers who need mental health services, it is going to be a collaboration. So wherever you find a mental health practitioner, you should be able to work hand in hand with the midwife and the nurse over there to be able to train them enough in maternal mental health issues. Thereby, these very issues that we are talking about, yes, at your clinical sessions, you take them through some maternal mental health problems that pregnant women can go through, nursing mothers can go through, what they should look out for in terms of the signs and symptoms. And when you see some of these things, where we are not there, you get us involved and let us come to assist. And also, you are to work closely with them or even follow them to some of their sessions and provide maternal mental health education at their clinic sessions. Thereby, they will also be able to even tell the pregnant mothers and nursing mothers that, look, this is the professional who are involved in issues of the human brain, issues of the mind, issues of mental health. Therefore, if you have any problem in terms of the way you think, the way you act, and whatever that you are going through, you're thinking about probably some kind of abuse and stuff, we should look out for some of these things at our sessions. Look, some of us have practiced that, and I can tell you that some mothers, even today, I was approached by a nurse in my nurse facility that she has even identified somebody who is a nursing mother that she has a problem, they want to meet me. I said, I am available. So immediately I finish this session, if it is not late, whether even if it is late, I'm going to look out for this woman and be able to interact with her and see what the problem is. Where I cannot intervene, there are specialists that we can refer her to support her. So this is a collaboration that we must work. When we do this over time, our mothers can sit at home, pick their phones and call us. Mr. David, Honorable, I have this problem. I'm thinking about some of these things. I think I need your support. And most of them are even working coming. Libido in terms of relationship or those things, when most of them, their libido gets low and those things. So there are problems that are underlying, but we don't look out for some of them. So I am saying that mental health professionals, we are all round in terms of provision of health services. So we shouldn't isolate ourselves at OPD, at the lab, whereby we cannot even take samples, but where our services are needed to even counsel our client. And when diagnoses are even being made for some health issues such as HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and the likes, chronic STIs, we should be involved to telling them, allay their fears and anxiety, because when these news are broken to them, a lot of them are going to have psychological problems. Who intervenes there? You tell them that they have this problem, you allow them to go. They are pregnant, they are nursing. How are they going to go through this problem? That is the question. We must step in, counsel these women, provide them the best support that we can ever have. So I can say that from the project some of us launched, we have gone far, we are reaching some regions, and our focus is on the sub-district, where we are going to engage our midwives and the community health nurses and all health professionals, that we are all involved and engaged in this very enterprise. Nobody should be left behind. So that wherever you identify, the chiefs, the churches, the Muslim community, everybody is involved. The family, that is the head, the father, the mother, the children, can even identify that my mother has a problem. Because one thing about illness is that the family is even the first people that will even know that our family member has a problem. So if you are the husband and you are very critical about your wife, if you are the son, the daughter, and you are critical about your mother, if the mood changes, if things are not going on well, and you know that there is a platform.
Thank you so much, Honorable David.
The way my mother is behaving, I think we are creating more awareness, more intervention.
Thank you so much, Honorable David, for that insight. It's very wonderful. Now, this brings me to another question, and this, I'll start with you, sister, so get ready to answer this first. Um, we have this problem that occurs, especially to women who spend long in labor. I will call it, okay, let me refer to it as fistula, like it is referred to by everybody else. So many women, like in Uganda, for example, there is a fistula ward at all our hospitals, all regional hospitals in the country. Sometimes when these women spend long in labor, they end up getting those leakages where they have to leak either urine or even the other things I don't want to mention also leak. It just happens like during that time, and you find these people are taking care of them, shunning them, telling them they are smelly, telling all these things. And most times when these ladies are when they get a fistula, most times they have lost their children, or most times the child is either has some issues, some kinds of autism, maybe their brain nerves were tampered with, or because of that process. Now, you find this people taking care of them and saying, you know what, you're so smelly, step aside, you do this, you do that, they're being shunned. How do you think that affects them after experience? First of all, you've lost a child, maybe, or maybe a child is there, but they have mental issues, but then this person is treating you like you're some piece of rubbish. How do you think that person is going to get affected in the long run? Living along the short run, obviously, where they have to face this person is treating them badly on a daily basis. How do you think they are going to go on with life?
Very unfortunate. This is very unfortunate. We have to really consider giving birth is a health issue and must be done in a particular setting. Yeah, and any woman in labor is entitled to compassion, respect, and dignity. Yeah, and actually it's a community issue. Yeah, we have to ensure that the well-being of every mother, of every child, the whole family and community in general is maintained, because that child is not only the child of the mother, it is our child. That is our wealth. And this is really, I think, something which is very significant, that we have to check that they are not having such excessive stress again, that women are not shunned and isolated in this critical period. This is not the kind of environment which is needed. We have to create together a friendly, a warm, a loving environment for birth. And we have to see how we can maintain that, how we can build the midwife services, how we can improve the healthcare system, that this is the basis of our community, of our society, and we have to really put the investment there, that such things don't happen, that such violence and human rights violation actually is happening at this very vulnerable time. This has a big impact on the health of our society. So we have to improve these things. We really have to improve these things. There's nothing that justify such actions from my part. And this has a long impact. It will have a long impact on us, on our society, on our emotional well-being. And it's one of the issues we have to tackle. Birthing is one of the most important things that is taking place.
Thank you much, sister. Talk about emotional support. Now I'm coming to you, Dr. Kevin. There are instances when these women get a fistula. Sometimes when they go back home, their husbands chase them out of the families, like some kind of divorce or separation in case they are not officially married. They tell you, you're smelling, you have to get out of my house, I cannot live with a smelling woman, So you as husbands to these women, how are you supposed to treat this situation, and what kind of emotional support are you supposed to be giving this woman, so that even when she has lost a baby, or she has a baby who has probably brain problems. What kind of support should you be offering in such a situation?
So you mentioned something called co-vaginal fistula. And it's important to know this, that J. Marion Sims, who's credited with being the father of American gynecology, established gynecology in the US on the basis of doing research, studying on 3 women, Anarcha, Betsy, and Lucy. And these women had vesicovaginal fistula. It was a situation in the US that caused, this is amazing, nobody calls until I start talking. So the vesicovaginal fistula was something that was damaging to the cash crop of the wombs of women in the South. And thus it needed to be dealt with because of what you described as a smelliness, because of the lack of being able to retain various bodily fluids and other things, waste as well. And so they came up with a way to suture these women with barbed wire. As a matter of fact, the speculum is a pewter spoon bent backwards so that he could examine within the wombs of women. And I say this to suggest that the foundation for what is called gynecology throughout the world came from exploring this phenomenon of the vaginal orifice of African women. And there is little credibility given to that. If I know this as a Black man, a man of African descent, I stop and I have to honor a woman for going through the process of birth and the tearing that took place, and respect the fact that this tearing is going to take some special healing and time to repair itself, because this tearing is exceptional. Oftentimes it occurs because of the pelvic area not being developed in a certain way, a lack of nutrition that causes it to not develop properly. And as a result, there's a tearing that takes place. There has to be education around these possibilities that happen within women, and how do we treat that as men? How are we more aware of what this really means to us? Also, you mentioned about a child with an exceptionality, or you said a mental condition. These things are taxing for families to address, that these are possibilities that take place, and that we have to be in a position to be able to accommodate for these things. And yes, there's some shaming that takes place. There's shaming on the mother, because there's shaming on self. Like, what did I do as a man to create this condition by which I have with some level of exceptionality? So the real issue is learning about the possibilities that come up as a result of childbirthing. It could be straightforward as a child coming through the womb, or it could be one by which a child can cause some ripping and tearing that is challenging. My second child did not do as my first child did. My first child turtled, and I was there for the process. A hands-on person. She turtled, and boom, she came out, and we're like, okay, here's this baby. Number 2, turtled. I mean that the head came through, went up, went back again. I said, okay, this is not good. We have a real problem here. And so I sat down. It's like, I got to get out the way. And so the gynecologist had one move to make. She had to reach in quickly, do a pull out, because my second child turned before she made it past the pubic bone properly. As a result, she was stuck. And one thing that has to happen there is well, 2 things are possible. 1, you break the pubic bone to bring the child out, or 2, the child dies in the process, and then you have to pull the child, a dead child out, right? So those are your options. Nobody told me about that. Nobody prepared me for this, but I knew that something was different. And so that made a move. She was able to pull my second child out, and she had brachial plexus. So that is that she had nerve damage to her arm. An exceptionality. We had to deal with that. Is she going to be well? Well, I was confident that she was going to be well, and she is. And there's no indication that she had nerve damage upon childbirth. The point is being able to accommodate for all these possibilities. And there was some exceptional tearing that took place. It didn't cause vesicovaginal fistula, but it was exceptional. I had to have more stitches than the first child. But the reality is just this, that childbirth is a tentative, tenuous process that we have to be able to attend to one another in mind, body, and spirit, and know that it is a total body and total spirit phenomena that we go through. We should be trained to talk about this in the profession, we should be also conditioned to talk about this within our families. Thank you.
Thank you much, Dr. Kevin. Angela, do you have something to say about that?
Just has muted your mic. No, I don't think I have much to say about that, because I guess the previous speakers have exhausted that part of it. All I can say is that the truth is, especially when you talk about fistula, it's so common, especially when it's child mothers, when it's teenagers, and so that means we need to create awareness around that, so that we can prevent or reduce. Sometimes maybe it's hard to prevent a situation completely, but at least reduce the occurrence, the prevalence of child pregnancies, because it's more common in that situation, and also more common in circumstances where communities where female circumcision is done. Raising so that women are safe. Yeah, that's what I can say for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Angela. And I have a Nigerian friend who has a fiancé. The lady is about in her early 30s, but apparently this lady has fibroids, these wounds around the uterus walls, and she hasn't been able to conceive for the past 6 to 10 years. They have been together, but they're trying to conceive, but it's not happening. This couple love themselves. The man loves the woman, the woman loves the man, but the woman is under pressure. The in-laws are telling her, you know what, you have to conceive. If you don't conceive, our man should let you go. But the man says, I have to retain her. So, in such a circumstance, how do you think all these things that are coming in from the in-laws, from the communities, from the societies, how are they affecting this woman mentally? And do you think, if I thought she conceived, do you think she's going to be happy with the conception, or she's going to be like, you came late, I have these issues with my in-laws because of you, you came late. Yes, you're my child, but I mean, how do you think this is going to affect her mentally in either the short or the long run? Dr. Kevin, let me start with you.
So quickly, it does have an impact, the idea of fibroids and other things that can affect the idea of family formation. And again, we haven't put to the idea what we thought would happen, and it's not happening. And there are women who can often conceive after this process, and they do have different feelings, right? Sometimes the child is born after long conditions like this, and there's a great celebration. Then others can say that it took too long, and sometimes people begin to step out of the relationship. This is not just simply one that happens in contemporary. If you even think about the biblical conversation of Sarah and Abraham conversation, right? So the idea, which is why people are even engaged in Ramadan at this time, was this idea of a pregnancy that took so long, and it finally came, and now sacrifice has to be made. So this is an age-old process of how do we address these issues. And so I think that people have to be accommodating for that as well, that certain things happen where we're not able to conceive, and how do we begin to redefine ourselves in the context of family? And that's a real tough one when we have had some ideas about what it should look like. I apologize, I had the camera pause. When we had some ideas of what it would look like and how we would form family. So yes, it's a real issue.
Sister, say something about that.
Definitely in such cases, I would advocate that there is some form of intervention which can take place, which can take place and look into this situation for the family as they are, as what is the meaning of the child which did not come, and also to make room for acceptance sometimes. Sometimes there is nothing left for us to do but acceptance, and to see in what way can I still, um, um, in what ways can I still carry out this motherhood or fatherhood. It is not only limited to one's own child. Yeah, there are other ways which the spirit of mothering or spirit of fathering can still be expressed. In any case, I think there is a good, it would be good to have intervention in such cases, because it is very, very big issue that causes a lot of distress, even up to suicidal thoughts, because the woman could not conceive. And this is something also which we have to consider. What is the role of a woman? Yeah, the role of a woman cannot just be, or the value of a woman, of a life, cannot just be reduced to the ability to conceive or not to conceive. And these are some of the things that we have to look into.
Thank you so much, sister. David, do you have something to add on what sister just said?
I think in all my conversations, I always want to let our viewers know that all these particular issues we are talking about, we want to see how best we can promote maternal mental health at the end of the day. But before we promote maternal mental health, they must know that in our community, a lot of women are there, or some are there, they give birth to children with deformities. Yes. And these children who they give birth to who have deformities, they have some psychological problem as mothers, as parents. So we can look at it in polls. Just recently in my country, a child was born, I think the hands were not all that complete, that is deformity of the extremities, and in fact, the entire community didn't understand. So you can see that this particular family is even in a very critical situation. So we must look out for children who are born to parents with deformities. Besides, yes, women give birth and at the end of the day, they develop dislocations, or they become, we call it in simple terms, they become pozo, they can't walk well just because of the birth complications. So, and surgery, even women who think they could have delivered normally are being prepared to undergo cesarean section. And these particular women or have some psychological problem they go through. But besides, these are the things that can culminate to our mothers and pregnant women also having problems at the end of the day. But how do we promote this at the end of the day? Doc already mentioned nutrition. Besides, we need family support. Also, when you are put on your ANC medications, you should be able to take your medications well. Avoid the consumption of alcohol or other substances that can let you come give birth to children who have deformities. And also, our stakeholders should be much interested in maternal mental health issues. A woman that goes to give birth, she comes out 100% with a child and baby. She's giving how many months? 3 months. That is our maternity leave in Ghana. And a woman who goes to give birth, who develops VVF, who loses the baby, is giving 1 week or 2 weeks to go and rest. How do we look at these things? So we must even give more attention and rest to somebody who goes to deliver and do not get a child. But now attention is given to only the children who come with their mothers. What about those who lose their children at the point of delivery? So I am saying that this is the time on this platform. Some of us are calling that our stakeholders should be much interested in giving our mothers maternal leave, even if they get or they lose their babies at the point of delivery, so that they can recover well. Because if you don't give them enough time to rest, they are going to develop more psychological problems at the end of the day. But least attention is given, like this particular case I cited. Somebody goes to deliver, 7th month, she has abortion, spontaneous, she lose the baby, she was expecting this child for a number of years. Now you ask that person as an employer to go back to work 1 week or 2 weeks. Are we sensitive to our mothers? How did we prepare this woman enough to resume work? So I do think these women should be given 4 months as maternity leave. If they develop complications after delivery, or they lose their babies, to even recover emotionally, psychologically, and mentally, so that when they go back, they would have worked at the loss, they would have worked at their mental health, and they will better serve the institution and the employer and their employing agency well. But this time, see, these women are giving least attention. So if I go now, how are you going to ensure that my psychological well-being is safeguarded? So our employers, I am saying that the Ministry of Health in all respective countries across the globe, Ghana to be specific, we must give more attention to our mothers who go to deliver and have complications. Enough rest. Even if we can't add number of months, we should give them the exact 3 months. They were going to deliver, they couldn't get their babies. These 3 months, they'll be able to recover before they resume work. So this is a call in the right direction. And I know my mothers, my sisters, and advocates will come and support this agenda. I am ready, even send a petition to our Minister of Health in this regard, so that our mothers will be given this particular attention. Nobody prepares for this eventuality, but should they happen, should we ignore their mental health and how they should recover? No, it could be me, it could be you, it could be anybody. So if you are in that situation, how do you want to be cared for? Our Minister of Health, our employing agencies should come to our aid and support our mothers in this particular issue. That is what I'm saying. There are a lot of things we can talk about. So I know that this call is going to open our minds, open the discourse, and help us to digest and digress issues, so that at the end of the day, our respective governments, I know most of them will listen to us and they are even listening to us. It is a humble appeal that they look at maternal mental health issues, not forgetting complications and the losses our mothers experience during pregnancy, at the point of delivery, and after delivery. Mothers who give birth to children with deformities, they should be given more attention and specialized care. That way, our mothers will have peace of mind, our fathers will have peace of mind, and our community should understand that it is not somebody's fault to give birth to a child with deformity. It is not somebody's fault to give birth and the child dies. It is not somebody's fault to go to deliver and undergo cesarean section. So when we change our discourse this way, our mothers, it is not the pregnant woman's fault to go to deliver and have VVF. I have been in a ward that mothers come 6 times surgery. She's still undergoing an operation to correct that particular VVF. And whenever they come to the medical ward, I can tell my viewers that I have this particular down mood because I look at their situation. They will ask me, David, am I sure this time they will be okay? I say yes. But look, this woman was going to delay, and most of them even lose their babies at the end of the day.
That was Honorable David. We've lost him, but he had some good insights. Dr. Kevin, I'm asking one last question to the both of you so that we can conclude this. David talked about maternity leave, was like emphasizing they should get 3 months maternity leave. But also I'm looking at this angle. Should also men get paternity leave 3 months to be with their wives at home after they have given birth, so that both of them can understand what the baby needs, so that they can take care of the baby in equal measures? Dr. Kevin.
Yes. How about the answer for you, Claire? Yes, that is the answer. I believe that it should take place. I believe that it is a necessity. And I think that it speaks to the normalcy of society. There are elements in the U.S. where men can have some level of leave, family medical leave, and others under these conditions. How long should it be is a whole another question. But the fact that it is granted is important, because again, the entire family is impacted by this childbirth. And so if one can be more supportive of the childbirth, I am excited to be a father as a woman is excited to be a mother. I have to be up at night. I'm trying to figure this thing out just like everybody else. And as we heard Angela say earlier, that each child is different. So it doesn't matter how many you've had. The reality is that the new child is distinct from the old child, and there needs to be a level of support there so that we can continue to go and grow as a family.
Okay, thank you so much. Sister, you can also add on to conclude.
I definitely agree totally. Both are moving from being spouse to parents, even if it's not the first child. And definitely, the family should be nurtured. And how long? I would say as long as the family needs, as long as the family needs, because they are raising these children for us. So it's also about creating structures and continuing to support our family system that is not just the immediate family, so that we can create this kind of nurturing home and spaces for our children that are being born.
Okay, thank you so much, sister. That gladly brings us to the end of today's show, concluding our World Maternal Mental Health show today on the 5th of May 2021. And I've been so glad to host these brilliant minds today. I'm Claire Nasasra Rachel in Uganda. I've hosted Sister Olarontaini. Olorontoyi. She's in Germany right now. She's a certified psychologist. Also, I'm glad to have Dr. Kevin Washington right in the US. She's an African-centered psychologist, and we had the Honorable David, though he's not got good issues. He's down in Ghana, and also we had Angela Nsimbi right here in Uganda. She's a mental health activist. I thank all of you for participating in today's session, and hopefully we shall have another episode of this, because it's really so wide that we didn't finish it, but next time better. But today, I wish everyone a good night. Everyone has been able to tune in and watch. We thank you so much. Wish a good night, a good evening, a good afternoon, a good morning, wherever you're watching us from. See you next time.
Thank you, Claire, for being a wonderful host and having us on here. And Claire, to let you know that I am closer to you than I was 3 weeks ago. I'm in the west coast of Africa right now, in the Gambia. So I haven't quite made it east yet, but I'm almost to you, Claire.
I'm very much ready to receive you whenever you come.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you too, sister.